The start of it was, my dad had a partner in the very beginning. And 49, my dad had gone to Marquette, and he came out of the Army Airborne, and he was in Army Intelligence, and that was going to be his degree. In fact, that was his degree after he went to school as well, but he didn't finish. He had a year to go, and the opportunity came, finish school and/or buy this grocery store and turn it into a restaurant. And it worked out. He decided, I'm going to stick this out for a couple more years, and then a couple more, turned into a couple more, and then you got what you got today. They used to have a cabin out in Appleport. Now even I walk out there to this day, and I still feel like I'm, 9 or 10 years old. And we got old photographs of him where he grew up out there. He was a dog person. All the kids here are animal people. So long before the log building was built here, it was the original restaurant. Looked more like an A-frame or your typical city store, really, but in a small town. I remember the plaques being out front of the provinces in Sweden. I remember my grandfather being here, my grandmother being in the kitchen all the time, meatballs being rolled by hand before the machine came along.
We used to have white tabletops. They used to have big metal pedestals under the tables, and as little kids we used to climb around and bang them with forks and knives, or we'd grab straws and we'd shoot. We thought that the restaurant was like a playground for us.
Counter was still as it is. Even the old wood paneling underneath the counter is the same. I think if you look around, these chairs are the original chairs that I remember. Nothing told you it was a Swedish restaurant from the outside at that time.
I mean, there were times where it's so slow that he would just hang a sign on the door that said, "Gone fishing, help yourself." And there was a can, and everybody would just drop money in it. The reason why we have the restaurant today the way it is because of Dean Madden. And Dean would walk by and he'd say, "You ought to build a log restaurant with a sod roof."
They went to Norway, and they were introduced to a fellow by the name of Knut Larsen, and they sat down, and as my dad used to tell it, on a napkin they sketched out some drawings and a handshake, and away they went.
And they built the entire building in Norway first, and everything was delivered here on the date that they needed the logs, and everything was built completely around the old restaurant. We never closed.
No, sir. He's going to build this restaurant around the old restaurant, and we'll disassemble the logs or disassemble the old walls as the new logs went up. We watched the Norwegian carpenters hand carve some of the posts out here with their homemade Norwegian knives that they're very proud of.
I remember the greatest picture ever that I saw was my dad sitting at the very tippy top of the gift shop when the logs were crisscrossed like this, and he's sitting there on top with a little Swedish flag. So it was really neat, and they put it all together, and it worked. He had a really good friend, Harold Larson, who everybody called Winky Larson. He had the ski hill, North Ski Ridge, in Fish Creek. And he and Al were very good friends. And as a joke, every December 9th, he would always get my dad a pet. When Al was redoing the roof, his friend kept saying, "Well, you ought to put a goat up there. You ought to put a goat up there." Every day he'd come and bother Al and tell him, "Well, you ought to put a goat up there." So one day, unbeknownst to Al, Winky went and found a goat, and it was a big billy goat. His name was Oscar.
He actually slung it under his arm, and he carried it up the ladder, and this was no small goat. And when he got to the top, the goat leapt to the first sure footing he saw, and Winky went down backwards, and I think he busted several ribs, and the goat sat there down, looked at Wink Larson, and that's how the whole thing really started.
So it wasn't for his best friend, Wink Larson, I don't believe that we would have even thought about putting a goat on the roof.
Good morning, kids. Time to go. Let's go on the roof. Let's go, time to go. Here we go. Here they come, good job. Hi, kids. During the summer months, the goats love to go. There's usually the first 4 to 6 get on the back of the pickup truck in the morning. Getting the goats on the roof is really a couple-step process. We bring the pickup truck to the farm in the morning. We have a little ramp that we back up to the gate, and they run right up onto the pickup truck for transport, which is only about 3/4 of a mile from the restaurant. Not many farm animals get to leave their pasture on a day-to-day basis, but here we go. They love going every morning. Here we come to Al Johnson's Swedish restaurant. Good morning. Coming to work. And once we get to the restaurant, we have a ramp that we are with a series of steps that they're able to run up those steps and onto the ramp and right up onto the roof for their day. And so they've got the best 9 to 5 working conditions in the country. Every year on my dad's birthday, one of his best friends, Wink Larson, would always give him an animal. And it always ranged from either a duck or a goose, or then it kind of graduated into a baby pig. And then all of a sudden the goat appeared. He was bound and determined to get Oscar the goat onto the sign, and as Wink was backing off, he fell off the sign and broke his collarbone. The joke was on Wink. He got butted off. A question always is asked is, where do the goats go in the winter? Sometimes we'll say Florida, sometimes we'll say Arizona, other times we'll say to the mountains, you know. But the reality is that they've got a great 40 acres and an old red barn. So it can't get any better than that. And we think that these goats are treated better than most people. Goats are really, really friendly animals. They're exciting to be around because they're very curious and creative. They love to be around people. They prefer to have good quality hay. From time to time, we introduce a little bit of grain mixture with their food. They're almost, they're to a certain degree like humans. They love treats. Believe it or not, they even like Swedish pancakes. And I think it's the flour in the Swedish pancakes perhaps that attracts them, but they do like Swedish pancakes. Currently I have about a dozen, but during the spring months I'm always looking for other baby goats, perhaps in the immediate area that's close by. And thanks to Door County Today, we've got a goat cam on the roof of Al Johnson, so 365 days out of the year you can come to aljohnsons.com and click on and look for the goat cam link on the two web pages. I'm proud of the fact that, you know, I can go just about anywhere in the world, and if we mention we're from Door County, and if people know where Door County is and know about Door County, they always ask us if you've been to the restaurant with the goats on the roof. And I, of course, smile all the time when I ask that question. As great as the goats are, if we don't provide quality service and good food, goats or no goats, we wouldn't have any business. So the goats are part of our business, and they're an important part of our business. But certainly, you know, there's more to it running a restaurant than just having goats on the roof.
A lot of times people come into Al's and say, can we go back in the kitchen and see how you make the Swedish pancakes? I've tried it at home and I haven't been able to do it. Well, you haven't been able to do it because you don't have a grill our size. Typically what we do, we wipe the grill down with a little vegetable oil. And we've got our batter over here. And there's 8 ounces to a scoop. Each scoop is 1 order. So I'm going to get 3 orders out of here. Years ago, we first started making them around pancakes, but they weren't fast enough, and it was troublesome. So my grandmother said, get out of the way and let me show you how it's done. And this is how we've been making them ever since. Now on a busy day, when I get done making these pancakes, I'd slide over to the next griddle and I'd make them over here as well. And I'd have another cook and he'd be making 2 over there as well. And while these were cooking and these were being spread out, these would be ready to be flipped. Now this grill I'm cooking on now is our newest grill. When I mean new, this is probably about 1978. These grills over here are cast iron. They're the original grills from about 1949, 1950. And most of the cooks fight for the cast iron grills because they tend to brown more evenly. My dad used to come back here and make pancakes, and he used to brag that he could make them so thin they only have one side. I think he's full of baloney. Now again, I'd go over here and I would cut these pancakes, I would flip those, and these would be ready to be picked up. Then these would be ready to be folded over and placed on a plate. And we'd put them under the heat lamp here. And just as quickly as we make them, a wait staff member would come and pick them up and serve them with lingonberries or strawberries and whipped cream or Door County cherries or what have you. And that's the secret to Al Johnson pancakes.
Freddie Bexell. I'm the head chef here at Al Johnson's, and today I'm going to show you how to make our Swedish meatballs. Våra svenska köttbullar. We're going to start with chopping up our onions and our breadcrumbs. Secret blend of breadcrumbs. Just kind of chop it up so it's a nice consistency. You don't have any chunks of onions in there. Now it's time to actually just mix the meatballs. We have ground beef, our onion and breadcrumb mix, our secret seasoning, some eggs, and we put it in our big mixer. And each batch is 60 pounds of ground beef. And in the summer, we do anywhere between 8 and 10 batches a week. By mixing it, slowly start adding our onion and bread mix. Add our seasoning. Minutes before we add our eggs, and finally our eggs. We'll mix this about 5 to 10 minutes. Just wait for it to have a nice consistency. It's starting to stick together. Well, as you can see at the back of the menu, we do between 225,000 and 250,000 meatballs a year. Yeah, as you can see, it's sticking together really well.
We were in here one night and I was messing around waiting for my father to close up, and unbeknownst to me I knocked a towel inside the meatball machine. The next morning when they turned on the meatball machine, well, the towel bound up the propellers in there and it sheared a pin. Well, the company has since been out of business, so nobody knew how to fix the meatball machine. Well, Al was fit to be tied. He wanted to know who put the towel in there. But he had more important things, and that was to get the meatball machine fixed. We had about 6 people back here rolling meatballs by hand, the old-fashioned way. He picked up the machine and brought it down to our local mechanic. His name was Loreen Lagerquist. Everybody called him Loggy. And he was an old Swede, and he took the whole thing apart, and with his heavy Swedish accent, he says, well, look at that. There is a pin just like an outboard motor. I can fix that. I'll make a new one. And he did, and we had that machine running in about a half an hour. Then I admitted it was me when things cooled down.
I'm just going to keep pushing it down so you don't get any air pockets in there. Run a couple through before you get the right size.
Up until about 1963, we did these by hand. Well, a gentleman came in here and saw my grandmother rolling them, and so they make a machine for that. So he borrowed us the machine for 1 week, and then he took it away. A day later, my grandmother made my father buy the machine. So it's been around a while.
Obviously, this being Al's mother's recipe, Rolf's grandma's recipe, and every Swede has their own little recipe, little secret ingredients. Obviously, we have our own little secret ingredients that we can't share with you.
This was the original recipe since we opened the restaurant in 1949. So I know if you go to Sweden, which I used to go visit my grandmother over there on my mother's side, and she made hers quite differently. She had a mixture of pork in hers, where we use 100% beef. I've had the pleasure of having dinner at Freddie's house, and he also uses pork with his. Which meatballs are best depends on which table you're sitting at.
That's what they look like after 7 minutes. Just brown the outside. Okay. Just for a minute to drain them off a little bit. Just kind of shake them off, get some of the fat off them. And we put them right into our pans. Put it in the cooler, and then we're ready when we need more. We pour gravy on them and put them back in the oven.
Remember, we've only cooked these just enough to brown them on the outside. Now we'll cover this in foil. And bake that at 350 degrees, about 3 hours.
And that's it. That's how we make our Swedish meatballs. Våra svenska köttbullar.
My dad, he worked for a diner, and when he was working there, he realized that nothing was written down in the kitchen. So the servers would come into the kitchen and call in their orders. Everybody in the kitchen had a responsibility, and the orders would come up simultaneously. And here at Al Johnson's, we have incorporated the same thing.
As far as I know, we might be the only restaurant that uses this system as far as, you know, how many people we serve at a day. So the servers come in, they have their chicken written down, and then they basically scream it out to the kitchen crew that has to remember each item that is ordered. Each guy in the kitchen has a specific section that they're in charge of. So you listen to that section, forget about the rest of the stuff, but you still have to pretty much remember the whole order.
You take the orders and you do write them down, and then they teach you that you have to call the order in, that it has to be in a special order. And you can kind of visualize it like the kitchen is laid out. Here are the pancakes grilled, so the pancakes always comes first. Then it goes to the broiler, which would be steaks or fish, then over to the grill, and then to the fryer, and then to our cold section, which is anything not cooked.
When we take the orders at the table, we just write that down on a ticket. So on the back of the ticket, we train all the girls to write it on the back of the ticket.
When a server calls in their order, it has to be in that sequence because each cook is waiting for their department to be called.
When you first start working in the kitchen, you think that this is no way you're going to be able to remember all this stuff. But after a while, it's such a simple system, and it works great for us. And there's just no way. I just can't see for us to go to a normal printer system like most restaurants has. Because we have a very fast turnover on the food from the time the servers take the order at the table till the food actually is back at the table. As far as I know, we're the only one that uses this system.
Our food here does come out very fast, and I like to think that's because the restaurant runs like a machine. It's once people are seated, the server is there within a couple minutes. You know, they have a couple minutes to peruse the menu, or as long as they'd like. But once that order is taken, that server is going back into the kitchen, calling the order in. The turnaround time is super fast.
It's always breakfast first in the right order. Pancakes first, then eggs. And eggs are complicated. Everybody thinks that, oh, that's easy, eggs. Yeah, no, it's not, because they're over easy, they're up, they're poached, they're scrambled, they're over hard. 5 ways to eat 1 egg.
Somebody calls an order out of line, and let's say they call in the grill first and then the pancake. let's, redo, because they're systematic. It's, it's like a machine.
As smartphones and technology and computers have gotten better, people have come in and of course they want to try to sell you a product, and when they come in and see our system and how it works, they right away say, this is amazing. Don't change a thing because it works, and you've got great managers that train the staff, and we're lucky enough. Most of our employees have been with us a long time. Some of them have started at the age of 14 and worked their way through high school, college, and grad school.
It's unbelievable how they can do it. I don't know how the cooks can do it. Like some food takes 5 minutes, some 9, that it all comes up at the same time. And there is 11 girls standing there just yelling. It's amazing. They really are good.
Awesome. You gotta follow the first one. Yeah, thank you.
We have people from all over the world working here. I mean, there's probably a list of 20 countries in the past 6 years that I've been back that we have had staff from.
It became very popular with a J1 visa program that's been a very good thing for all of us in the tourism business. It's been a great opportunity for kids to come in from Eastern Europe and the Far East and South America, virtually all over the world, to come and experience a summer fall in Door County.
It's amazing how educated the people are from overseas, and the languages. I mean, some of them speak 5 languages. I know 2, maybe 2.5.
Sì, 2 special. Один с котлетою, один яйца Benedict.
3 pancakes, 3 arriba, 1 con bonigas y 2 con salchichas.
Yeah, good.
Caitlin, tamam mısın? Okay. Bir sosis ve karışık yumurta, beyaz ekmekle patatessiz. Bir kahvaltı tostu, etsiz, patatese peynir ekle.
En korv och äggröra, en frukostmacka utan kött och vit.
Evet.
Okay.
They want to talk as much as possible because that's the whole idea behind the J1 visa, is to learn more English.
4 specials overballs and 2 specials scrambled balls. Scrambled. 1 child's French toast. 2 side bacon, 1 is crispy, 2 side meatballs. Yeah. I was trying to figure out how to. I'm sorry.
All my kids started school, and I felt like I should have something to do besides just working in the restaurant all the time. We brought over Swedish girls, and they were mostly friends and relatives of my family. And they all wore clogs when they came over, and they asked me if they could wear clogs in the dining room, and I said sure. And that's how come we started to sell clogs.
But to start out with, she just sold stuff at the cash register. And then, people wanted more and more, so she opened up that little shop.
So we bought this property next to the restaurant, and it had a little building on it. And we were selling Swedish wooden clogs and lingonberries at the restaurant cash. And sometimes we were so busy there selling clogs that I thought, well, maybe that's a good idea if we move it over to that building.
My mom's vision was to have Scandinavian giftware, clothing, really authentic things from Scandinavia. And many times my parents would travel back and forth to Sweden and bring things back themselves, fill their suitcases, and many suitcases, obviously, and just to get through a busy tourist season.
And that's how it started with the boutique.
But it's spelled differently.
Yeah, B-U-T-I-K. Small shop in Swedish. And then we got the big shop. I went to Sweden to gift shows and to Norway and Denmark. And we tried to buy as much as we could. We tried not to have modern things.
Ingrid has excellent taste, and she wanted the real thing or nothing. They got their log home a year or 2 before where they live. And then 1974, the gift shop was added.
When the Scandinavian logs came from Norway, my parents decided that it was important for the boutique to be connected to the restaurant. That way people could flow rather than having to walk outdoors and walk into another building. This way it would be all under one roof.
The wooden clogs are still made in Sweden, which is very nice. I see more clogs here than I do when I go home. Not that many people in Sweden wear them, but that's the secret.
Wooden clogs are for us are the best because they have more of an arch support in them than any other shoe. We also carry Dansko. Some people prefer Dansko because it's a little softer on their feet than the wooden shoes are.
We served lingonberries in a restaurant when Al and I were married, but he never sold them, so I said we should sell them too, you know. Al bought some and they were Findus and they had that Scotch plaid top on. I designed the labels and we put our own labels on. And then I said to her, we can't have those Scotch plaid tops on there. Everybody will think it's Findus. Lingonberries from Sweden. We started to import our own lingonberries, so we got a plain top. And we sold it at cash. Most everybody that paid at cash bought a jar of lingonberries.
It's fabulous. And especially now when we have our own. And it is really, really good. When I started, we had kind of like a little dirndl, and that was from Austria. And then we imported more and more, and we sold lots and lots of them. These two are for sale, and that's Salzburg too. It's in one. It's a little simpler. It's a summer dirndl. It's a little lighter. It's cotton. Has contrasting apron and the little detail here. And this is a winter dirndl. It's fine corduroy. It has the attached sleeve and a lot of little detailing here. And I looked up what dirndl means today. I thought I better know. And it has a tight bodice, it has a full skirt, and it has a tight waist. And the girls in the boutique, we wore many different kinds because we were selling them too. Basically, we have a lot of stuff that we've had all these years. Dollar horses we've had. It's a little different now. We have more books now. We sell more food. I think people really like Scandinavian food. Pickled herring, hardtack, candy, everything, and people are asking more and more. We do sell a lot of Al Johnson's logo things. We never had that before, and that's really taken off.
We do sell still, you know, quite a bit of Norwegian sweaters. And once you own one, they never go out of style. And I've talked to people, oh, my grandmother had one of those and she gave it to my mother, and then my mother wore it and now I'm wearing it. So, you know, they never go out of style.
The new concept of the shop is great because we have more room for people in wheelchairs, using canes, walkers. It's much easier for them to get around than it was before.
If you're not available to come to Door County, it's important for you to jump on your computer and go to aljohnsons.com. There's lots of material there for you to browse, and you can shop on our shopping cart. There are many people that come in our gift shop and say, wow, it's even better than it is in Sweden. And that's a pretty big statement. The Stabur is really an agricultural building that was used on family farms back in Norway. The family would live upstairs and they would keep their produce and things that they would grow on the farm on the first level. And it was built off of the ground, and that way they could keep rodents and animals away from the produce and whatever else they had from their agriculture, and they would live right in this building.
The building was built around the same time the restaurant was built by a number of Norwegian carpenters, and it had the same detailing the restaurant has, same kind of hand carvings that the restaurant has, and it was almost an afterthought. And it made the pond setting back there on the north side of the restaurant a kind of a Scandinavian village theme. And we didn't use them for anything for the longest time.
The idea popped up, like, I wonder if we could actually move one of these buildings and use it even for a backdrop or some for a coffee shop or something next door.
Gunilla told me, have you noticed what they're doing down to the Stabur down there? It's beautiful. Have you seen it? And I said, no, we'll go down and look at it. So then I asked Rolf, well, what are you going to do with it?
We decided to move that building up front and create a pub-like atmosphere.
I think we crammed about a 6-month project in about 2 weeks. Got on the phone after talking to a number of contractors up here for looking for a building mover, and we found a fellow out of Merrill, Wisconsin, I believe it is, near Wausau, and their name is Shooty Building Movers. And he came up, took a look at it, scratched his head, and he said, I can do it, and it'll take me about a day and a half.
Yeah, we got to get it over there.
So, you know, by the time we get that one over there, I'm going to try pulling it tonight.
So when we moved and the board building itself, they picked up the building from its old foundation in the back corner of our property. We built a road just for this purpose through the woods in the back of the restaurant. They drove it through, kind of got stuck at one point, so we had to call it a day around 10 o'clock one night. We pulled through after cutting a couple more trees down, pulled through where the cedar trees are and where it now sits the following day, and then slowly dropped it down on the pre-built foundation. But it was literally within inches of getting through the cedar trees, getting put down on the foundation. So it was a pretty nerve-wracking night to get it all done, because it all happened at dark. It was very tight.
Well, we needed a foundation. We know it's hard to find contractors up here on the drop of a hat. I ran into a fellow by the name of Jude Colosimo, who is a concrete fellow out of Chicago and up here. And he said, you call me up and let me know, and I'll have a crew up here in no time and we'll do it. Once they laid the concrete down and we got the building in place, there was another fellow that we were working on with a warehouse, and he happened to do woodworking on the side. And he said I could build you a bar, because he knew that's what we were looking for on site. And I said, well, take a good look at the building, try to accompany the building, make it a nice accent to that, and have at it. So that's what we did.
One night they moved it next door, and they made a bar out of it.
Our vision of the whole Stabor area, the whole green space and the bar, is that as a family you can actually go there, you can have your kids play the backyard games that we have out there, and meanwhile you can still have a beer, a glass of wine, or a cocktail. But we want to have a nice, relaxing atmosphere that you can sit out in the sun and enjoy it as a family.
The daytime crowd is what we kind of cater to. When it's still light out and the families are still trying to enjoy their time with each other, whether it be the husband and wife couple by themselves, the single people by themselves, or the families that want to have an afternoon to themselves.
I'm just thrilled that we can offer that environment here in downtown Sister Bay. It's a great place. We're right across the street from the beach. Parents can enjoy themselves in an outdoor environment. And we have a lot of outdoor TVs, a lot of outdoor music. And on a sunny summer fall day, it is just an ideal spot to spend an afternoon or early evening in Door County. Just have fun, because that's what you're on vacation to do, is to have fun. Every Christmas, we as a family celebrated Christmas at my parents' house, and growing up as a young boy, we can recall having a great Scandinavian Christmas buffet. Yule board is what the traditional name is.
Yule board started with just some herring and cheese, and then it kind of has grown from there when, you know, added the meatballs.
We would always have the Christmas hams, a wide selection of Scandinavian cheeses, salmon, smoked, marinated salmon, gravlax is what we refer to it as, the different kinds of herring.
The herring people have been eating for a long, long time in Scandinavian Europe. It was a food of necessity, because there's a lot of nutrition in it in the Middle Ages. And then it kind of turned out to be a delicacy instead.
You had to pace yourself extremely well, and we would start usually midday, and then we would go through the early to late afternoon and then come back again in the early evening, and always save room for all the great Scandinavian desserts, because that's the real highlight of the whole Yule board.
It's pretty common to go through 5 plates and go to the table 5 times before you finish.
Breakfast with Santa, of course, was really something that happened because of the conversations we had with our parents, and that there just wasn't a traditional Scandinavian Christmas here in Door County, and nobody was doing a Breakfast with Santa. The opportunity to sit on Santa's lap and have a Scandinavian breakfast turns into a real memorable event for families and the kids, and all children leave with a goodie bag from Santa himself, and photos are being taken by family members, and it really turns into a keepsake.
Kom till L. Johnsons och prova på vårt svenska julbord där du kan smaka våra olika sillar, julskinka och Janssons frestelse.
Goat Parade is something that evolved about 5 years ago, I believe, and it really has turned into something bigger than I would have ever imagined. I think the community in the county of Door, for that matter, is thrilled by that, because it's amazing to me how something so simple and so little can turn into something so tremendous for the whole area.
It's a beautiful day for a goat parade.
I think one of the things that works really well for us is that we work with a lot of the local goat farmers, and so we're able to every year do something a little bit better, and it's important for us to reach out to our customer base and the community, and people are always asking questions about the goats and how we take care of them, where they live. We have a traditional Wisconsin farm, a big red barn, and they have 40 acres that they graze on when they're not on the roof, and it's only about 5 or 10 minutes from the restaurant location. Every spring there's always a new group of baby kid goats. The baby Nubians. Credit goes to the Door County Creamery. They provided us with some babies this year, and they're Nubian goats, and they're marvelous. They were born, they're about 3 months old now, and they've been on the roof once, so they've had one trial run, and they're looking forward to going on the roof with the big guys. I never dreamed I would be a part-time goat farmer, if you will, but I think that really the whole concept of Goat Parade is something that has really, really taken off, and it's turned into a big event in early June. One of the things about Goat Parade is that it's always subject to weather. I have found out over the years that goats do not like the rain, and they don't even poke their head out of the barn when it's raining. Goat Parade, beautiful downtown Sister Bay. Come and see us, come and see our goats, come and eat our food, come and drink our drinks.
Anita Conlon came over, which was some of the first ones, and she's from Linköping, Sweden. And she was a babysitter for my girlfriend's children.
The first time was just to work for one summer, and I went with my best friend, her sister, so we were a group of girls, so that was fine. And then we met a fourth girl at the airport, and she's the girl who later on married my brother.
I am Britt, and Johansson was my name in 1970 when I got here. And I loved it so much, so I stayed over winter and worked the summer of 61 too, or 71. And then I got back to Sweden and I met Gunilla's brother and we got married 73.
I would go over to Sweden once a year and I would put an ad in the newspaper over there and I would get all those answers and I interviewed them in my parents' home.
My name is Gunilla Wilson these days, but it used to be Gustafsson, and I came 1970. From Växjö, which is a city in Sweden in the southern part. It's where all the glass factories are. And I'm the only one of these 4 girls that are still here.
I'm Liselott Gustafsson those days, but not a sister, just a best friend. And I came here together with Gunilla 1970 for the first time.
My name is Gertrud Karlsson and I came from Ydre, the same area as Ingert come from. And I came here first 1969 alone, and then I came back at 71, and I haven't been here since.
We were all a team, so it wasn't that scary. But our English, we didn't know, how English was, and with food and stuff. I remember you know, like perch. We had no idea what that was. And pork chops, you just don't think about those things. So that was a little tricky, but it went very well. Our first meal at Al's, of course, we had hamburgers, knife, fork and knife, and we were all eating, everybody laughing.
We've never seen a hamburger.
No. And I think that people were so friendly. I think we really loved that.
Yeah.
So friendly. Nice.
And it was very special to be a Swedish girl because, you know, everybody had to check out the Swedish girls every year.
Yeah, but at that time, many of those people living in Chicago, they know Swedish. They could speak to us.
Oh yeah.
Though they were older, they could just say a few words.
Yes. And we were much cuter at that time too.
Young and beautiful.
They would come in June and then they go back home again Labor Day and go to school. And that's how we recruited all the Swedish girls. And Anita just retired now after working 50 years in the restaurant and the boutique.
So I was here when Oscar, the first goat, was on the roof. So we, and of course it was a little tiny restaurant, you know. It was the little one. It wasn't a log building when we came.
This is the only place on earth, I think, this look like this. It's really special.
With the goats on the road.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
And it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some places in northern part. When Al came into the restaurant, everybody said, Al is here, shape up.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did. Remember, we could not leave lingonberries and syrup on the table when we gave them the ticket.
No.
Took us to the movies at night. Remember, he always sang for us. He had a great voice.
To the Playboy Club in Lake Geneva.
Yeah.
We were there.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, but he was like our dad all the time we were
Like
here.
a beer.
Yeah. Kind of a.
We liked him very much.
Yeah.
We had great respect for him.
Yeah.
He said something about work hard and
Play hard.
Play hard. Yes. Work
And we
hard and
did.
play hard. And we did.
Yeah.
When you came back to Sweden again and you suddenly were just like a normal Swedish girl,
Nothing extra
nothing
special.
exciting. Took quite a while before you got used to that.
The real reason why we have so many Scandinavian employees and Eastern European employees over the years really started with my mom. And my mom came to the United States all by herself in the late 50s, didn't know a soul, managed to land in Door County and meet my dad here in Door County. And my mom quickly understood that if you were going to have a Swedish restaurant, you needed to have some things that were authentic. Quickly, you know, she realized that she had contacts back in Sweden from her own family that could come to the United States and spend a summer and fall working here in the United States and working for us. And we had some housing next to our house where we grew up, about a half a mile from here. And it was really, really a great experience because about 8 to 10 gals from Scandinavia would spend the summer on our property, and they would work here all day and all day and night. And when you're a young boy and you're growing up with 8 to 10 very beautiful Scandinavian women, it was a great way to grow up. You know, my dad, he had that personality that when he walked in a room, everybody paid attention. He was that type of a person. I often say today, you know, when people say that they're impressed with how well the restaurant is run and my dad would be proud, I take that as a compliment. I always say my bark isn't quite as loud as my dad's was, but his bark, pardon the pun, was more out of a term of a respect type of bark. But when he said something, you responded.
He was very loud, very, you know, loving, happy to see us, he very easy to talk to, very concerned that everything was okay with us, and took us out to eat on the way home. And he sang all the way home for us. He has a wonderful voice. And later on, he used to take us for movies, and he always sang all the way to Sturgeon Bay. He was quite the guy.
And we were so busy, and I asked Al if he could help us with the clogs. And I was all alone working in there. And he said, sure. So he came in, and a lady wanted some of those clogs. And she had about 10 pairs at least on the floor there all over. And Al is standing there. And she said, oh, I wish it was red there and green there and white there instead of the other way around, she said to Al. Lady, make up your mind what you want. I don't have all day standing here waiting on you. He told her. She bought them.
Every once in a while, Al and my dad would get a letter that say, you know, Mr. Johnson, I want to bring this to your attention. We had a marvelous meal at your place. We went in there, but I think it's terrible about that elderly busboy that runs around there and shouting at all the girls. And he would chuckle, and he'd write a letter back and say the elderly busboy was me, Al Johnson, and I apologize if you felt like you were rushed, but we have, you know, June, July, August, September for these people to make their money, and hence us to make our money. And we hope you enjoyed your meal, as it sounds like you did, but by no means do we mean to rush you, but that's just the nature of the business here.
He was in here working, we were in here working, and we didn't complain about it. We just would try to keep up with Al and try to keep up with Ingrid. You know, it was like they were working all the time.
He used to always say, I want to put Door County on the map, or Sister Bay on the map. I think he did. They might not know the name of the restaurant, they might not know, you know, but they do know the place with the goats on the roof, no matter where you go. Part of Door County forever, you know.